put in the chat if you have a question, and I'll call upon you. We'll go ahead and get started with Jeff Ferrato from Cal Sports Report.
Morning, Justin. First of all, can you just tell us how unusual and how challenging it is to recruit a kid in Ieremia Moore that not only you've never seen play, but basically no one's ever seen play?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yele, we found out about a year ago as we were watching some other guys at a practice at St. John, or workout, I should say, at St. John Bosco. And, we know the coaches down there pretty well. They have an excellent program, as you probably know. And throughout this season, or this off season, the spring and summer, we were eager to watch him play. He has a limited football background, but the athleticism and the physical traits are really impressive. We were able to watch some kind of spring practice. He initially came in 2019 and had to play JV because of the rules of transferring in. As you know, he's from New Zealand, but we were able to watch the workout, and then we saw some video throughout summer, some camps that he was able to take part in, and really felt good about his physical traits. And honestly, we all feel like if there was a fall season for him, his recruiting would have skyrocketed. And so we're very comfortable with him as a prospect and as a person, getting to know him and what he's all about. So Andrew Browning did a great job just throughout the process of being really, really thorough. And we were fortunate to sign him and have him join us.
And a prospect like that, who basically hasn't played football other than, like you said, JV football, what's the timetable for him to realistically be on the field for you guys?
Yeah. And I don't know that that's quite fair, because you did see there's practice when he's practicing against some really good players. So as we said at St. John Bosco, I mean, those guys are every year they've got a lot of guys coming out of there. And so we did see some practice tape and some camp tape against some very talented players, we felt. And a timeline, that's so hard, Jeff. It's you never quite know until you get them here. And that transition process from high school football to college football for anybody is significant. And some guys, pick it up a little quicker than others, and we'll see. But we're very, eager to get him here and start working with him, because again, the physical traits are there, the mentality, the competitiveness, and some of those other things that we really dive into all showed up in a really positive way.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to Trace Travers.
Haven't done this for a while. Have to get back into the swing of it. Last night when you guys had the virtual signing day event, both you and Jim Knowlton mentioned 10 super seniors. I only have 9 down at the moment. Can you list those off for us?
Oh, geez, I don't want to miss anybody here. Kyle might have to list them for you. We're going to release a roster. Let's see. Go ahead and name them. I'm trying to think who you're missing.
Let's see.
I think you're missing Trayvon Clark.
Okay,
Trayvon
Clark. That
there
would
you
be
go.
the one that I'm missing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there you go, Trace.
Good. Yeah, and how good is it to get those 10 guys back? I think you have a running back, couple wide receivers, few offensive linemen. You have the 4 defensive guys who all kind of came back in one group.
Mm-hmm.
How much does their returning production mean?
It's great news for the program. I think it's a win-win. Helps our team from their ability standpoint, and then also the leadership they provide, especially through times like this. And then I think it benefits them as well, in their futures in football. So we had those discussions throughout the winter break and guys sorting through things. And we're really, really pleased that those guys are back with us. And, all of them are working extremely hard this offseason. They got goals for the team and for themselves that they're working towards. So really pleased that group of guys came back and wanted one more run at it.
I wanted to ask about you guys hired Coach Heyward this
Mhm.
past week. You and Coach Sermon obviously have experience working with him before. How quick did that conversation go when you were faced with a spot on your coaching staff that was available?
Yeah, very quick. And if we've had these talks before, kind of always have relationships and people that we know and think would be a good fit here. And so I've known Keith a really long time. He's an excellent football coach, and that's the root of it. But even more so, I mean, just a super human being. He's got great relationships with his players, and I've seen that firsthand. It's noted, since he's joined us, he does a great job. He's a real humble guy. He's extremely smart, great teacher, and so we're very fortunate that Keith has decided to join us. He's had other opportunities, a number of them, and really glad he's here. So, again, to know him well, but that was a quick conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on. Excuse me. We'll move on to David Bush, Bear Insider.
Trace kind of took part of my question, but could just go into a little more detail about what makes Coach Heyward such a good coach? And I understand he's got a great reputation as a recruiter. What makes him so good at those things?
Yeah. Well, he's a very humble, hardworking guy, very, very smart. He's been around different systems. He's coached different positions. He's recruited to different places. He's a really, really good staff member. So there's just a lot. I mean, kind of every box that you're looking to check, Keith's one of those guys. And again, I've known him, have the luxury of knowing him and worked with him before, and have always kept up with him. And he's got a great reputation in college football as a coach and recruiter, but also people that work with him. He's just a great staff member. When these things happen, there's turnover in college football. We all know that. And we've had a couple positions this year with Coach Heyward coming in and also Brian Johnson. And I have the luxury of, on a daily basis, getting to see our staff work with our players. I get to see, the staff meetings, the recruiting meetings, the player meetings, the practice, kind of everything that it entails. So I get to see that every single day. And when there's turnover, we always look at that as an opportunity to improve our program. And we feel like, we know who we are and strengths and weaknesses. And we feel really, really fortunate to have Keith and Brian joining us. So, we kind of go through the process of, some guys we might know a little better than others. Like Keith, we knew really well. Brian, we didn't know so well. We kind of had connections to Brian, but go through the process and spend a lot of time talking to him in some cases and less time talking to him in others, just because of what we already know. But really feel good about these guys and how they're going to help us improve their respective units and our program as a whole.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, we'll go back to Jeff Ferrato from Cal Sports Report.
Yeah, since we last talked, Justin, Devon Modster has moved on. And by my count, I think you have 4 potential candidates to perhaps become the backup to Chase next season. Brash, Rowell, Jaden Casey, and Milner, who's coming in, I guess, in the summer. Can you talk about the backup quarterback situation and sort of what you're hoping to find out in the spring ball, and kind of it's a pretty inexperienced group now.
It is. Devon was great, and we really enjoyed having Devon here and wish him nothing but the best. He was a really good teammate, and I really like Devon, and so did Coach Musgrave and the guys on the team. So we wish him well. There's some inexperience at the quarterback position other than Chase now. There's going to be a number of opportunities throughout spring ball and fall camp for those guys to get reps and valuable reps to put it on tape. Some guys are younger, as you mentioned. Some guys like Robbie and Spence and they have a little bit more seasoning. Kai Milner's going to get an opportunity when he gets here. Is a very talented young man. So we'll let that present itself when it does. We don't really have a timeline on naming the backup quarterback, for example, but what we're really more interested in is just their improvement throughout this offseason, spring ball and summer and fall camp.
If I could follow up with a slightly related question, have you figured out your timetable for spring ball, and how do you, when you're doing that, how much of it has to do with where we are with the pandemic?
Everything. So I was hoping you would have the answer to that, Jeff. I was going to ask you that question. We have a couple scenarios, and we're waiting for clarity from the state. I was on a call this morning with our administration. We're just really trying to get some clarity on when we could have the full team, practice at one time, and that's what we're waiting on. So we're really in deep on winter workouts, which we need. And so both scenarios would work for us. One of them basically would finish before spring break, and the other one would start after spring break. And it's all dependent on the allowances made so we can practice with the whole team at one time, because we don't want to do is split them up like we needed to in fall.
And assuming that the longer you wait, the better chance there is to sort of have what you want. There's some downside to that too, right? Because you have less time after for guys to continue to work on their own. Is that the issue?
Yeah, it's kind of 6 one way, half dozen the other. A lot of people do it. We've done it later. We've done it where we did the majority after spring break, and we've also done it where we got the majority done before. So it's I don't think there's a cookie cutter way to do it, Jeff. We have a couple different scenarios that we can work with and feel like can be equally productive. We would probably pick one over the other, but we know right now we have to be agile. And so our strength and conditioning staff is full bore, and we need this time in the winter, and if we are able to start earlier, great. We'll get our spring practice in. We'll be prepared for that. And if we're not able to, then we'll start it later and we'll make the most of that. I don't see it necessarily being, an 80-20. It's 51-49, and we'll make it work. But what we need to do is get some clarity on when we can practice with the entire team.
Okay, Jeff, you good?
Yep, thanks.
Okay, Jim McGill, Bear Insider.
Hey, Justin, can you talk a little bit about the returning seniors, who's coming back, what it says about the program that so many are coming back? And there's a couple like Val and Kakoa that haven't necessarily made their plans clear. Can you talk about all of that?
Jim missed it.
Yeah.
Trace, you want to fill him in?
Oh, the stupid Zoom password.
The Zoom password. The damn Zoom password got you. Come on, Kyle. So we got 10. Do you have the list there, Kyle or Trace?
Yeah,
we can run through them one more time.
Trayvon Clark is the only one I didn't have, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, let me.
So Val is back. Yep.
Let me pull up my document real quick to make sure I get them right.
We can send you guys a roster now that we're updated.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned Jim, Val, and who else?
Kakoa.
Yep. Both those guys are coming back as well.
The other ones are Clark, Dancy, Bang, Drayden, Good, Hicks, Safel, Gentle, Williams.
Yeah. So to speak to your other question, I think it's great. I think it speaks to those guys. I think it speaks to how they value the program. It's mutually beneficial. We get dang good players back from a production standpoint, and then also the leadership that those guys provide for some of the younger guys on the team, and then also for them to get more experience and, for their careers in football. I think it's a win-win.
Okay. Jim, you good?
I shall ask a follow-up. Can you talk a little bit about any kind of restructuring that's happening with the recruiting department with Marshall moving on? And is there any kind of shuffling, new hires, anything you can talk about?
Yeah. So we have a couple positions in recruiting that were opened. We filled one of those internally. Brandon McInerney, who is a student here, who has done a great job for us, really in a volunteer role up to this point, and extremely hard worker, very smart guy, and knows how we do things. So he'll fill one of those roles, and we are in the process of filling another, and we would look to continue to grow that department. It's obviously become, the recruiting departments in the last 5 years have really exploded, especially when it comes to creative content and social media. And it's a really important part of college football and interacting with the recruiting base. So we have definitely made some really strong strides there, and we, some of the guys that were with us did a great job, and we're going to look to, again, improve on that and build on that and be better in the future.
Thanks.
I will go back to Trace Travers.
One thing with Coach Heyward coming on, and something that Coach DeRuiter said a couple times since he's been hired up at Oregon, is that you guys ran the Cal defense here and that it was a collaborative effort. Is it still going to be that sort of collaborative effort between you and Coach Sermon and Coach Heyward, Coach Yates, and Coach Browning, and play calling and all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way since we got here, Trace. We brought this defense in our first year in 17, and every year it tweaks based on your personnel and, the type of offenses that you see within the conference and on your schedule. So it's always been collaborative. I don't know that that'll ever change. We do have a foundation that we installed that I believe in way back when. But again, we've had some coach like Coach Az was with us, and he was great because he had some different experiences, and Coach Tuioti and Andrew and Marcel, and now Keith. Obviously, Pete has a ton of experience and different things, and so it's always been that way. And we feel really, really good about the guys in the room who are talking defense, and we do that on a daily basis, and we'll continue to do that. We got some really, really smart guys in there who are excellent coaches that interact really well. They're also really connected to the players. They do a great job building relationships with the players, which is very, very important. College football can't be transactional in terms of how you interact with your position group. There has to be a relationship there, and sometimes there's accountability measures that you got to take with a guy, and sometimes you got to pat him on the back and help him. So I know that the guys in the room now are very, very good with that. So again, to answer your question, I don't see that changing. I hope that it's always going to be collaborative, whether it's defense, special teams, or offense, because we have some smart guys here who have different experiences, and it's really about doing what's best for the program.
And I also wanted to ask about another guy you added on defense since we last talked, transfer in Raymond Woody, and kind of what he brings to the table and how his recruiting process went the second time around. Yeah,
Ray, we knew from high school, had watched him quite a bit, and so there was a relationship there. And he had went down to Florida State, and his dad was coaching down there, as you probably know, and so he had, entered the transfer portal, reached out to us. We began that process, and again, we had a background with him. We watched some video, and we're excited to add him to our roster.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Anybody, if you do have a final question, give you about 5 seconds here to put something in the queue. Jeff Ferrato, go ahead.
Yeah, Justin, you referenced the off-season, weightlifting training program. Can you talk about what the restrictions are right now? Are your guys still lifting outside? And I would guess that would be somewhat more challenging this time of year. How are you guys making that work right now?
Well, big news last week, or this week? We got to come inside, and so the players now get to work out in the weight room. It's been a long time, almost a year since that's happened. And so, I mean, the group size is about 25, and just to see them be able to go in the weight room, the responses from that, that's a big win. And so we're looking forward to, maybe getting back in the building even more with the locker room and the training table at some point. As you know, in football, there's the training and there's practice and there's meetings, but there's also so much time that the teams spend together in locker rooms and eating between workouts that builds camaraderie and chemistry. And that's really, really important. And it's not like you put a number on that in terms of like how much they can lift or how fast they can run, but it's very important to build camaraderie to be able to be in the building. So we're looking forward to hopefully the situation getting better where we can do that. But we have been able to get back into the weight room, about 25 guys at a time. And so that's a win for right now.
Is that the first step toward having that sort of camaraderie you're talking about, having those guys?
I think it helps. Again, it's only 25 at a time, so you don't have that intermingling, like you would in the locker room. I mean, the locker room is a sacred place. The locker room has a lot to do, not just physically, and we got a great one thanks to Aaron, but just it's where they spend time. They talk to each other. They, they eat together. There's just the older guys get to know the younger guys, and it's hard to, it's more challenging to do that on Zoom. And if you're not in the same workout group, if you're a senior and you're not in the same workout group as a freshman, and you never see them in meetings and you never see them in workouts, it's really practice, but even in practice, you're separated. It's hard to build a relationship that way. I think we've all found that out in the last year. So being back in the facility is a big, big deal. We're not there yet. We're looking forward to getting there whenever the experts say that we can. The guys are still, we're getting tested and following all the protocols, which they've done a great job of. And, but it's a big deal. So
have you gotten any hints as to what the timetable on getting back in the locker room might be?
No, that's our administration and our sports med and doctors handle all that. I just ask a lot of questions and, but I don't have an idea. So I'm just waiting for them to give me those answers.
Thanks.
Okay, it looks like Trace Travers has an additional question.
Yeah, you talked about Brian Johnson, bringing him in as the strength coach. Just with Coach Becton, you gave him a lot of autonomy with what he wanted to do with the strength program. Is that going to be the same thing with Coach Johnson, and how does he kind of differ from Coach Becton?
Yep. Another good question there, Trace. So Brian Johnson, when Coach Becton made the decision to leave, we had a great deal of interest from really different types of strength coaches throughout the country, some in the NFL, some in college. And, really it goes back to the fit and what our team needs. And we had extensive Zoom interviews because we didn't know these guys as well. Coach Yates had a relationship with Brian Johnson. I know some other coaches who worked with Brian on the college and professional level that I reached out to. So we did a lot of work, just kind of background, getting to know these guys. And we spent a lot of time on Zoom with them, myself, one-on-one, and then our staff. And I had some players meet with some of the candidates. And Brian is a very knowledgeable guy. I mean, he has a background, obviously in strength and conditioning, but utilizing sports science and some of these other programming things that were really, really impressive. And we've got some good people here who, Mike Blasquez, who is involved with our department, and he has a really strong background as well in that. And so going through the interview process with a number of candidates, and it was very, very clear that Brian was the person for our program in a number of ways. His know-how, his approach, he and Coach Becton might have different methods, but both effective. There's no doubt about it. And it's been a great, great start for our team here in this winter conditioning. Now, there's going to be hard days, and he's going to push them, but he's also very pragmatic, and he's got a process on how he does it, and he's an expert in that. So I fully support him there, and just really thrilled that he and his staff have joined us.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, anybody have a final question? Give you another couple seconds. If not, we'll, I know we've got Keith at 9 o'clock, so these guys are getting a chance to meet him.